You're listening to Brandon Sports Talk, interviewing professional athletes and Paralympians and Olympians. And now for your professional athlete interview and your host, Brandon P. Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege of interviewing the coach, Richmond's Associate Head Women's Soccer Coach, Coach Megan Gill. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Brandon. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you. Can you talk about how you knew that you want to get started in coaching in college women's soccer?
Yeah, I've reflected on this quite a few times. I know I've been asked this a few times. It really stemmed, I think, when I got injured in my junior year of college. That's when, from a co collegiate coaching standpoint, it really started to interest me. Where I was injured, I couldn't be on the field, and I had to start to see the game from a new way. I had tremendous coaches who got me involved in one of my teammates who actually got into coaching as well right out of college, Brie Garcia, who tore hers 3 months before me, and said, hey, you guys can make a different impact since you physically aren't on the field, and it really got me more engaged in video sessions and seeing the game from the tactical side and the chess match side, and that's really, I think, what started to drive me to that. I didn't really realize it till I was in my fifth year and ready to graduate and going, what do I want to do with my life? Studied business, but knew I had a passion for coaching. I'd always done coaching in hindsight, looking back. Coached AYSO in high school with my sister. Always did summer camps. So when I was in my fifth year, I met with my head coach and said, this is something that I really enjoy. I love being around. I love the game. I'm passionate about the game, and I love the other side of it too, the teaching side of it, and trying to help others pursue that same success on the field. So, had that conversation, discussed kind of what some possible steps would be to get your feet wet and get into it, and it just kind of took off from there. Applied and got a GA spot, and have been with it ever since.
What was that experience like going to Penn State and playing collegiate soccer?
I always said, and my teammates always made fun of me, but it was literally living the dream. It was something that I grew up 45 minutes away, a Penn State basketball, football, soccer, just Penn State fan. So it really was something special to be able to put that jersey on every time and be able to play there and compete as an Nittany Lion.
For you, what was that feeling like putting on that uniform?
Chills. Like it was every time I put it on. I was definitely grateful to be a part of it, knowing that the such a rich history of success as a university, let alone the soccer program in itself. So every time I got to put on the blue and white, it's certainly something that I never took for granted.
During your time collegiately, what were some of your biggest accomplishments as a player?
Yeah, like I said, Penn State obviously has a pretty storied history, right? So I was a part of five teams. I had two major years with injuries where I got the red shirt and had a fifth year. So I was a part of five Big Ten regular season title teams, two Big Ten tournament teams. We made the NCAA tournament those 5 years as well, which was exciting. And then from an individual standpoint, I did earn second team All Big Ten honors my sophomore year, and then academic All Big Ten honors in my upperclassmen years. So.
Coming out of college, what was that experience like getting into coaching?
It was a change of pace. It was something different, but it was exciting. That was the one thing that when I spoke with Coach, he was like, it's no longer you having the success, you're helping somebody have success. She's like, you're gonna see it from a new perspective. It's almost gonna be kind of that like proud parent perspective where you're like, yes, they've done it, and they've had that success. Um, so it's definitely a change of pace because at first you're just so used to being in the thick of it. And now what you see, you've also got to try and communicate that. And that was certainly the learning curve of like, well, I know how to do this, but how do I help this person learn how to do this? And that's where the teaching element comes in, and that was probably the biggest learning curve from going from player to coach.
How was that experience like getting to coach on the Olympic Developmental League for the U13 and also being a head coach for U9 and 10?
hmm Yeah, it's awesome. I enjoy it. I've always, like I said, even in high school, I was always a part of youth coaching. And it's certainly a lot different than coaching collegiately, and but it's also um it brings a change of pace and it brings its enjoyment in different ways. Because at the youth level, you see that development so quickly, especially from an individual standpoint over younger ages, where in one semester you're going, wow, like they can actually receive a ball and pass a ball and dribble their head up and just the little things that when you get to the collegiate level, obviously those things you're refining at the highest level versus developing from the ground up. So it certainly as a coach keeps things fresh and it keeps things in perspective as well, and the joy of the game and the passion of why we do this. Because in the collegiate level, sometimes you can get caught up in the grind of it. So it certainly keeps things fresh, and I love being a part of it because it helps stay connected to the local communities and being involved in the youth side of the game.
What was that experience like for you coming to North Carolina and coaching in Charlotte?
Um, it was exciting. Never lived in North Carolina. The only side of North Carolina I've ever been to was the Outer Banks with my family on the other side. Um, so it was tremendous. In Charlotte, as you know now, they have like a pro team with the CLTFC, and it's definitely a soccer community. So to be involved in that community and have those connections, even though I'm in Richmond now, I still have a lot of those connections back in Charlotte with that soccer community.
What was that experience like being a grad assistant first for Columbia College?
Um, it was tremendous. For me, like I mentioned, it was getting my feet wet. It's really kind of figuring it out, and that's what Coach Dombach had said. She was like, the best advice she could ever give me was surround yourself with good people, and that was something certainly I took to heart, and was really blessed to get to work with John Klein and John Deshay, and find a really unique opportunity as well. Because she also said. Can you find a space where you find either a volunteer position or a grad assistantship where you get your feet wet? You dig into the other side of things of what's practice planning like? What is planning for video like? What is figuring out travel logistics? What's recruiting like? Um, Digging into it. And even, there, we were a program, got to work with the men and the woman, so it's really unique seeing different dynamics within a college collegiate environment. And also doing everything as a GA, like you hear of doing the laundry, helping paint the lines, so a lot of great lessons from that experience, and also again learning a lot from John and his leadership. He'd been a part of the men's program there. That men's program had had a history of success, and we were helping start the women's program. So the women's program there was brand new. So kind of helping start a program from scratch, helping learn what is important in culture building and building a team and building a philosophy on the field and off the field. And to Coach's point of surrounding yourself with good people, John and his family so supportive. It was the first time I was away from any relatives near me, 13 hours away because I'm from Pennsylvania. So it was a lot of lessons learned and a tremendous experience that I think helped me really see this is what I want to do, this is what I want to continue to do, and having that opportunity to stay in the game and stay in the game collegiately has really helped push my journey forward.
What was that experience like for you getting that opportunity to be a head coach at Davis?
It was all the feelings, right? It was the excitement, the nervousness, as a head coach, it's a different role. It's certainly like everyone always says, you're in the hot seat with every decision you make, and there's a lot more everyone says pressure, but it's really like you get to put your stamp on it though too, right? It's how you want to run the program, how you want that culture to be set, how you want to play, how you want to recruit. So it was a tremendous learning point, and until you've been in that seat, it's hard to know what it's like. No matter what level you're at, if you're an assistant, it's certainly a unique experience to be a head coach and know that the team is you're driving the team, you're driving the bus, and where you go, they go. And so it was certainly a tremendous opportunity for me to be able to do so at such a young age. I think it was like 4 years, my fifth year out of college. So it was a tremendous experience and tremendous learning opportunity for me.
What were some of the things that you learned as a head coach, and what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, there's so many lessons learned. Um, but a lot of it comes down to the biggest thing I've learned, and I'm a bit of a book nerd. I love reading books. I always have. Big Pet Summit fan, John Calipari, John Wooden, and the things that you read about, but trying to apply them in your own way. Of the Pat Summit quote of they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, and really learning how valuable it is to build that relationship with your players, to have that trust and respect on the field. And that's what's going to ultimately carry you to the success. It's not about what you know. It's them knowing that you care about them, knowing that you're going to do what's best for them, and ultimately what's best for the team. And that was probably the biggest lesson learned in that experience, and has really helped drive some of the things that I've taken into my next roles, and this journey that I continue to be on, where ultimately it's about putting the people in front of any player. It's ultimately focusing on the people that they are, and really genuinely getting to know the players we have, and that's what's ultimately gonna allow us to then push them on the field as well. But until they know that you know them, you care about them, um, that's what's gonna then be allow you to then go, okay, you can go further, you can go more. I know you've got it in you, and they trust you and they believe you, and they believe in you and you believe in them. So that's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned from that experience.
What was that time like at Davidson College as an assistant coach to then help you to transition into your new role?
It was exciting. It was my first opportunity to coach at the Division I level. I know that I had played there, but right out of school, I went into coaching at the NAI level, then D2, and so it was really the first step into the Division I level from a coaching standpoint. So it was exciting, and the opportunity to go to a place like Davidson, like I mentioned earlier, about surrounding yourself with good people has really led me to the opportunity also as well here at Richmond, of the opportunity to work with Adam and Aaron and that staff, where we've got a very um, similar vision of how we want to play, similar values as people off the field, where we're very family oriented, very people oriented. And that was again in alignment with a lot of the things I've learned about myself as a coach and how I wanted to coach. And so to be able to do that, and do it at a Division I level and learn more of the intricacies of what this level and travel and flights and recovery and traveling across the country, that was an exciting step for me, and again a really positive step in my journey.
Coming to Richmond, what was that experience like being the associate head coach?
It's been, like I said, it's been awesome. I can't complain, and it was such a unique transition. It was really the first institution where I knew the people I was working with, right? At the other institutions, I had interviewed and gone through the process and gotten to learn. But having gotten to work with Adam, and Aaron, and knowing that we have that alignment of how we want to play, and we have that trust and respect, and know what each of us brings to the table, and feel like we've got a really strong staff dynamic, both on and off the field. It was really unique, and it's been really exciting as we again try and look to move this program forward and work our way to the top of the A10. It's been really fun.
What does a typical game day look like for you as a coach versus for your players?
Yeah, for the players, especially if we're home, they're still in school. They gotta get to class still. But we do, even when we're home, we do want to help them, as I like to say, flip the switch, going from school mode to competition mode. So we work with our dining staff, and we put on a team meal for them 3 hours before, where there's a separate room that they can eat in together and really start to get the camaraderie and just get ready for the game. And then they're heading to the locker room to again do their pregame prep, hype it up, obviously do all the hair braiding and things that they need to do. Um, and then we'll meet with them 75 minutes before kickoff, and then go through our typical routine game warm up routine. But for coaches, it's a little different. Our staff is morning workout people, so we like to use those days, de-stress, get our morning workouts in. We typically meet around 10 a.m. Just get all our ducks in a row for the day and for the following day, and then divide and conquer, whatever details need wrapped up over the next few hours, just checking in and making sure the field's set up for warm up. And then, like I said, we get there about 90 minutes before together, and then we'll meet with the team and go through our pregame talk 75 minutes before the game. And then for us, we like to do a post-game tailgate as well. So it's a big part of our culture and what we're building and having the team together after the game, and enjoying a meal together. And it also helps to make sure that they're getting the fuel that they need. So post-game, we'll meet all as a team, and we'll have a little tailgate. And then as coaches, that's where I think some things are slightly different, where the girls are going to go get rest, recover, probably study up for the next day, and then we'll go back and watch the game and get prepared for what the next day of training looks like. So that's kind of the typical day and how it varies.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you've started to build for the women's soccer program?
Certainly, yeah, that's one of our most I mean, that's one of the first things that you focus on as a staff, right? For us, it's been the foundation over the past 2 years. I know we're only 2 years in, but we're excited of the foundation that we have set and the platform for us going into year three to continue to take steps forward, on the field and tangibly. But for us, a big foundation for us is communication, and trust and respect. And that's where right away we started to meet with players every 2 to 3 weeks, have conversations, get to know them as the people that they are, and also get to know them as players and what they want to pursue academically. So that's really been the first step over the first year, and then it was also the collaboration of staff and the team. When you talk about culture, it's something that you want to live day in and day out, right? It's not just something that sticks on the wall and you've got a few words to say. It's what are we doing? What do we want to be known for? How do we want to be known across campus in the community? When recruits come on campus, what can they expect? And so that's something that we utilize with the team. We worked through our first semester here of what are our core values? What are the things that are going to drive that we can be consistent day in and day out? That's going to lead to our long-term success. And the four core values that we've come up with that we put a lot of time and work in defining as well is dedication, excellence, responsibility, and selflessness. And that's been really the heart of everything that we continue to do and continue to push forward.
Who are some of the teams in your conference that you compete against?
So the Atlantic 10 is the conference that we're in, and it's pretty expansive. It's up and down the Atlantic coast, and then we even expand into the Midwest. So the furthest north right now, we have 14 teams, is Rhode Island. So all the way north is Rhode Island. You've got Fordham, which is in the Bronx, New York. You've got St. Bonaventure, which is in Olean, New York, over towards Buffalo, the other side. Um, Duquesne and Pittsburgh. St. Joe's and LaSalle are both in Philadelphia. um, George Mason and George Washington, which is in like the Arlington, Virginia, Northern Virginia area. Then VCU, which is 5 minutes down the road here in Richmond, another A10 team right in town. And then we've got Davidson in North Carolina, St. Louis out in Missouri. Loyola Chicago just joined 3 years ago, 4 years ago now, so relatively recent team. Um, Dayton in Ohio, and I think I got everything. And then Richmond is the 14th team. So pretty expansive, mostly up and down the coast, but we've expanded into the Midwest a little bit with our conference. So those are the conference schools, and then a lot of the non-conference is a bit more regional. We typically play a lot of the CAA or SoCon or Big South or Patriot League, like William and Mary, ECU, Longwood, Radford, ODU. So we're typically playing in and around our region for non-conference.
What is that home game atmosphere like when teams like VCU comes home versus going away to like ECU?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot more. I feel like it's a lot easier for fans to travel, especially family members. So that's where you always seem to get. We get our family, we get our students, but even when you're playing like a William and Mary, who is an hour down the road, or Longwood, you certainly get some of those fans and those families, and I think it creates a fun atmosphere. At least for the players and the coaches. Referees obviously always have a tough job, but it makes for a fun atmosphere when you've got fans from both sides at games.
What does that recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes looking to play?
Yeah, it's certainly the recruiting landscape is ever changing now, isn't it? But there's certain rules in place from an NCAA perspective where for Division One, you're not allowed to communicate with potential student athletes till June 15th of their before their junior year. But a lot of those student athletes are still emailing you event schedules, and we go to events nationally and regionally to watch games. Typically, mainly focus on juniors and then later in the phases, sophomores, rising juniors as they get closer towards that June 15th timeline. And then once that date is open, you're allowed to have that communication and dialogue, phone calls and emails, but they're still not allowed to visit campus yet. So the NCAA says August 1st, which is right around when preseason starts. Our preseason is typically the first one for NCAA sports is women's soccer, and so those student and those recruits are start allowed to start to visit right around that same time, right around August 1st. So the fall is a lot of you've had some dialogue, you've had that communication, you've seen these players multiple times throughout their different club events, and then you bring them to campus in the fall to get them. For us, we like to call it a day in the life. They get to see what it's like to be a Spider student athlete, get to class, meet with coaches, see the facilities, and really get to see what a typical day is like. To see, ultimately, you want to see, can you see yourself in their shoes? Can you see yourself being a part of that program and being around everything that that program entails? And so, that's what the typical timeline is. And most student athletes for women's soccer are committing in their junior year, and some into their senior year. But a majority of that will come in their senior year or junior year, sorry.
As a coach, what is it like seeing those freshmen putting on that Richmond Spider jersey for the first time versus seniors putting it on for the last time?
Yeah, it's di very different moments. Excitement, and adrenaline probably for both. For freshmen, there's obviously the nerves that happen and um the things where they're excited, but they're always also really nervous, and you're trying to calm them down a little bit. And from the senior side, it's one of those things where you're trying to avoid the countdown, as we call it, because you don't want it to bring in those emotions, right? You want to try and stay as even keel as you can, and we always say, like let's reflect on it when the season's over and when that last time really is. Because if you're in the postseason, you hope you can keep extending and not have to put that jersey on for the last time, and really try and to be honest, it's trying to take as much emotion out of it as you can and just bring the even keeledness to it so that they don't get too high or too low. But it's certainly, like you said, it's an awesome feeling to see those guys rep the jersey for the first time and a challenging moment to see them lacing them up for the last time as seniors.
What is that like getting to see them going on and playing in the NWSL?
Yeah, that's it. And that's exciting. That's the professional level is for as much as it's grown right now, the number of opportunities are still very, very limited. So for players that get that opportunity, it's tremendous to see players push on and be able to do that. Because the number of female student athletes at the collegiate level, just like anything, right? As you get professional, the pyramid gets smaller, and so to see somebody get their foot in the door and have that opportunity, it is tremendous.
What are some of your future plans for the Richmond soccer program moving forward?
Yeah, for us is it's continuing to push the standards day in and day out. I know we talked about culture. It's about continuing to push the standards of competition, of what we want to be. Ultimately, our goal is to be consistently at the top of the A10. That's where we want this program to be, consistently competing for the A10 and working our way into the NCAA tournament. As I know a lot of coaches want. And so for us, the goal is to focus on the process to get there in the short term, right? And so the first step is continuing to push the level of standards, continuing to bring in players that are the right fit, and that are going to push that level forward, and then consistency over a long period of time and what we do day in and day out. That's the key for us. And the first step is get to the A10 tournament, then it's continue to be in the tournament consistently and continuing to work our way up the table.
What advice would you give those incoming freshmen?
The biggest thing is preseason is short, so put yourself in the best position possible. Yeah, try and come in as fit as you can and get as many touches on the ball in the summer. And hopefully, a lot of the freshmen are typically still playing with their club teams, so that can be helpful. But it's really just coming as sharp as you can, as fit as you can, because no matter what, it's a transition to college soccer from the environment they were in, and there's gonna be those challenges. But if you can come in knowing that you're gonna be the best version of you, that's all you can ask of yourself. And then you can work through those challenges with your coaches, with your teammates, but ultimately come in the best version of yourself.
What advice would you give those seniors that have aspirations of playing in the NWSL?
The biggest thing, like I mentioned, is that there's not many opportunities, right? So keep believing in yourself and keep working because um, unfortunately, there's not a lot of doors for the amount of players that want to get through those doors right now. So continue to believe in yourself, but ultimately continue to work towards that. So when that door does open, you're ready to step through it because that's what's most important is preparing yourself for that. And you've got to have that belief and that faith when those tough times come. And then you've got to be ready and prepared to step into that when that opportunity does show up.
What advice would you give those future coaches out there looking at starting coaching on the college level?
I would give them the advice my head coach gave me which is surround yourself with good people. If you surround yourself with good people, you're ultimately going to grow as a person and you're going to grow as a coach, and that's what's most important. There's tons of great coaches out there, but you want to find the good people as well as the good coaches that are going to help you then grow and succeed, and just finding any opportunity that you can get your feet wet. So whether it's like I said, volunteering or a GA. Get your feet wet, get to know what the ins and outs are, learn all the behind the scenes, do the laundry, paint the lines, whatever it takes, to get yourself the experience that's going to help you then grow and develop as a coach.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you out on social media along with the program at?
Um, I use Instagram and Twitter mainly. I don't even remember. My handles are typically something around at Megan Gill 27, which was my number in college. I've had it since then. So yeah, and my name and the number 27 and some combination is my user handles.
Thank you again, Coach Megan Gill, for your interview and best luck in your future.
Thank you so much, Brandon. Appreciate it.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.